3 years ago, Sophia met Noah during what felt like the worst week of her life. Her apartment had flooded due to a burst pipe upstairs, forcing her to temporarily stay at her younger sister's tiny condo in Tucson, Arizona. Noah was the emergency plumber dispatched by the complex, charming, talkative, and always somehow discovering new issues during every visit. At the time, Sophia thought it was cute how he kept finding excuses to drop by. Looking back, she wonders if he was deliberately dragging things out. Despite being socially anxious, Sophia found it surprisingly easy to talk to him. Their connection felt instant and safe. Within months, Noah's lease ended, and moving in together felt like a natural step. Financially convenient, maybe too convenient. Noah worked odd jobs as a plumber, often clashing with his bosses, either quitting or getting fired for being misunderstood. Sophia, ever the optimist, overlooked these red flags. By the end of their first year, their lives were intertwined. Sophia had a stable, if modest, job in customer support, and she quietly took on the role of the emotional and financial anchor in their relationship. She thought love was about patience. She believed Noah would eventually find his stride. By their second year together, the cracks in Sophia and Noah's relationship were no longer subtle. They were chasms. Sophia found herself increasingly exhausted, both emotionally and financially. Noah, once playful and ambitious, now spent most days ranting about his bosses or sulking over perceived injustices. He had cycled through 4 plumbing companies in under a year, and every time it was someone else's fault. Sophia, ever hopeful, continued to carry the load. Her job as a medical billing specialist wasn't glamorous, but it provided just enough stability to keep them afloat. She paid the rent most months, covered groceries, and even lent Noah money for tools, uniforms, and gas. She told herself it was temporary, that love meant support during hard times. Then came the car. Noah had always obsessed over flashy cars, and when he found a used 2016 Dodge Charger on sale, he treated it like a divine calling. Despite Sophia's gentle warnings that it was financially irresponsible, he insisted it was essential for his work. When the payments started falling behind, he became despondent and volatile. Feeling cornered, Sophia offered to help. She applied for a loan in her name to take over the remaining payments, $389 a month. Noah cried when she agreed, called her an angel, said he'd never forget what she'd done for him, but he did. Over the following months, Sophia noticed a shift. Noah became colder, more entitled. He didn't thank her anymore. Instead, he joked about how lucky he was to have a girlfriend who handled man stuff like finances. When she'd question his spending or suggest he get therapy, he'd respond with sarcasm or worse, silent treatment. Sophia buried her growing resentment. She stopped talking to her friends about him because she couldn't take the judgment in their eyes. Every time she opened her banking app and saw that monthly car payment go through, she swallowed the discomfort like a bitter pill. And then, their 3rd anniversary approached. Sophia wanted it to be special. She had just finished paying off the car, every single dime. It felt symbolic, like maybe now things could shift. She used her savings to make a reservation at a rooftop restaurant downtown, a place they'd dreamed of but never visited. She bought a new dress, had her nails done, and arrived 15 minutes early, heart pounding with cautious optimism. Noah texted at 7:05 p.m. "Running late, babe. Go ahead and get seated." She waited and waited. No response to her follow-up texts. No answer to her calls. The waitress came by 3 times, asking if she'd like to order or reschedule. Sophia sat alone until 8:45 p.m., nearly 2 hours, and then Noah strolled in, not alone. 4 of his friends trailed behind him, laughing, already buzzed. Noah looked at her, smirked, and said the words that would crack her world open. "See? Told you she'd still be here, like a loyal little puppy." For a moment, Sophia just sat there, frozen, wine glass in hand, her heart racing. The laughter from Noah's friends echoed around the elegant dining room. She could feel the eyes of strangers glancing her way, with a mix of pity and second-hand embarrassment. And yet, Sophia didn't cry. She didn't scream. She didn't storm out. Instead, she smiled. "I'll have another glass of Merlot, please," she told the server with quiet grace, as if nothing had happened. Noah and his friends ordered cocktails and appetizers, making offhand jokes at her expense. One of them, Dylan, who Sophia always found obnoxious, commented, "Man, she really is house-trained. You're living the dream, bro." Noah laughed and raised his glass in mock toast to her. Then, as if he hadn't humiliated her enough, he leaned in and whispered, "Be a good girl, and don't order food. We've got poker night after this." His tone was half condescending, half threatening. Sophia nodded, took another sip of wine, then excused herself to the restroom. Inside the dimly lit bathroom, she stared at herself in the mirror. There were no tears, no trembling lips, just a calm, eerie silence. For the first time in years, her mind felt crystal clear. She was done. Not just emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually. Done making excuses. Done waiting. Done believing in potential that never came. That's when the idea hit her. Sophia remembered all the voice messages Noah had sent her over the years. Angry, vile rants about his bosses, calling them incompetent morons who'd be lost without him. She remembered the ones where he cursed at his parents for refusing to lend him money, calling his own mother a spineless leech. And yes, she had saved every single one of them. She pulled out her phone and opened her Telegram app. Her fingers scrolled with mechanical precision to the favorites folder. Dozens of audio clips, some downloaded, all time-stamped, all raw and unfiltered. A quiet fire lit in her chest. She texted her best friend, Grace, who lived just 5 blocks away. "Can you pick me up in 10? Grace, "You okay?" Sophia, "Not yet, but I will be." She walked back to the table, smiling like nothing had happened. "I just need to make a quick work call," she told Noah, who barely looked up from his drink. She walked calmly to the front desk, flagged down the server, and said, "I'd like to pay for my wine. Just mine. The rest is on them." At 9:12 p.m. Sophia walked out of the restaurant, straight into Grace's waiting car. Noah never even noticed she was gone. That night back at Grace's apartment, Sophia finally let go. The second she closed the door behind her, everything she had been holding in for years came crashing out. Her knees gave way, and she collapsed on the couch, sobbing into a throw pillow. Grace, ever the rock, sat beside her with a tub of cookie dough ice cream, rubbing her back in silence. She didn't say, "I told you so," didn't ask for details, just let Sophia cry until the tears dried on their own. For hours, Sophia vented about the money, the manipulation, the loneliness of being with someone who made her feel invisible. Grace just listened. Sometimes that's all someone needs. By morning, Sophia felt hollow, but also strangely clear-headed. She hadn't slept, but something inside had shifted. The girl who used to over-apologize, who justified every cruel comment and excuse, was gone. In her place stood a woman who had had enough. She opened her laptop and made a list. Not a revenge list, but a freedom list. Step 1. Change every password Noah ever had access to. Step 2. Remove him from every shared account. Step 3. Cancel the payment processing on the car loan, citing fraudulent coercion. Step 4. Pack every single one of his belongings into trash bags. Step 5. Send every damning voice recording to the people who needed to hear them. It wasn't rage that drove her. It was clarity. Sophia wasn't looking to destroy him. She just wanted to be free. And if freedom required the truth to come out, so be it. Later that day, she visited her apartment while Noah was still out, probably nursing a hangover or bluffing at some poker game. She moved quickly. Within hours, she had stuffed 12 garbage bags with his clothes, gadgets, video games, and toiletries. She carefully set aside any important documents, birth certificate, tax forms, anything he might actually need, and placed them in a manila envelope labeled, "For Noah, that's all." She changed the locks, called the landlord to explain. He offered to install a new security cam at no charge. Turns out, she wasn't the first tenant to deal with a breakup gone sideways. That evening, Sophia finally blocked Noah's number. On her phone, email, social media. No more access, no more explanations. If he wanted closure, he'd have to find it on his own. And something wild happened. She didn't feel guilty. She didn't feel cruel. She felt light. It hit her then, in the quiet of her now Noah-free apartment. This wasn't heartbreak. It was liberation. For the first time in years, Sophia wasn't waiting on anyone. Not for love, not for respect, not for change. She was reclaiming herself, piece by piece. She wasn't the girl who sat alone at that restaurant anymore. She was the woman who walked out and never looked back. A week after walking away from the restaurant and from Noah's chaos, Sophia began rebuilding. It started with small things. She rearranged her living room, moved the couch to face the window, and hung up a floral canvas painting she'd kept in storage for years because Noah thought it looked too girly. She ordered new bed sheets, swapped out their shared mugs for ones that made her smile, and finally lit the lavender candle she'd been saving for a special moment. This was that moment. Each act of reclaiming her space felt like peeling away the version of herself that had been molded to fit someone else's life. Sophia was no longer surviving. She was redesigning. She also started putting the money she once used for Noah's car payments, $389 a month, into a separate savings account. Watching it grow, even slightly, gave her a sense of control she hadn't felt in years. It wasn't just money, it was her future. But perhaps the biggest shift came in her mindset. Sophia had always been cautious, a planner, someone who avoided risk. Noah had relied on that predictability. He knew she would always hold it together. But now she was done holding anything together that didn't serve her peace. One afternoon, while browsing through old vacation photos on her phone, she paused at a picture from Portland, Oregon. A foggy coastline, rugged cliffs, and her smiling in a hoodie 5 years ago. She'd gone there for a work conference and had always promised herself she'd return someday. She never did. Noah never liked traveling. Without overthinking it, she opened a travel website and booked a solo trip for next month. Round-trip ticket, oceanfront Airbnb, a cooking class, and a guided hike already added to the itinerary. It wasn't just a vacation, it was a declaration. Meanwhile, messages from Noah still flooded her spam folder, some angry, some pitiful. His friends, or what was left of them, had stopped reaching out. Even Amber, the flirty co-worker, had apparently ghosted him once his reputation imploded. Sophia didn't care. She didn't even check anymore. She was too busy living. She joined a book club at the local library, reconnected with old friends she'd unintentionally drifted from. Started taking early morning walks with her neighbor, Eleanor, a retired nurse with a golden retriever named Max. For the first time in years, Sophia didn't dread coming home. Her apartment was quiet, clean, and hers. Every night before bed, she'd write down 3 things she was grateful for. Some days it was as simple as fresh coffee, no text from Noah, and Max let me pet his belly. But those little victories added up. Sophia had stepped out of the shadows of someone else's dreams. Now she was building her own, not for anyone else, not to prove a point, but because she finally realized she deserved it. 3 months after the breakup, Sophia barely recognized her own life, and she meant that in the best possible way. She had lost a toxic partner, yes, but what she gained in return was far greater: clarity, confidence, and the quiet kind of joy that doesn't need to shout to be real. There were no more nights filled with anxiety over late car payments or wondering if she'd said something to set Noah off. No more walking on eggshells in her own home. Her new apartment, smaller, cozier, and completely hers, had become her sanctuary. Every inch of it reflected who she was. The shelves lined with mystery novels, the terracotta plants thriving under sunlight, the cat bed beside her reading chair where Max, her rescue tortoiseshell cat, spent most afternoons purring like a tiny motor. Sophia's days were no longer dictated by someone else's drama. She created routines that fed her soul. Early morning journaling, evening yoga with calming music, weekend farmers market strolls with grace. She even signed up for a local ceramics class, something Noah once dismissed as a waste of time. The more she leaned into the life she was building, the more she realized how much she had dulled herself down in that relationship. She had made herself small to keep the peace. She'd taken pride in being the stable one, not realizing it had become a prison. But not anymore. Now, when people asked how she was doing, she didn't say, "fine," out of habit. She actually meant it. And when she looked in the mirror, she no longer saw someone hanging on by a thread. She saw someone grounded, someone evolving. She didn't regret everything. That experience had taught her how dangerously subtle manipulation can be. How some people don't scream when they're being cruel. They smile, they joke, they charm, and they slowly chip away at you until you no longer recognize your own reflection. It had made her wiser, sharper. She started speaking up more, not just in personal relationships, but at work too. When a client crossed a boundary during a call, she didn't brush it off or over-apologize. She asserted herself firmly, respectfully, and for the first time in her professional life, she felt heard. The healing wasn't linear. There were still moments of doubt, of grief, of wondering how she let things get that bad. But those moments were fewer now. And when they came, she had tools, support, self-awareness. One night, curled up on her couch, with Max on her lap and a hot cup of tea in her hands, Sophia scrolled through old photos she had transferred to a backup drive. Among them was one from her birthday 2 years ago. Noah was beside her, arm around her shoulders, but her eyes, her smile, it was all wrong, forced, hollow. She deleted the photo without hesitation. That girl was gone. The woman replacing her, she was just getting started. 6 months after that fateful rooftop dinner, Sophia stood alone on a cliffside in Cannon Beach, Oregon. The ocean wind whipped through her hair, and the waves crashed below like a heartbeat, cheering her on. She had just completed a coastal hiking trail, by herself, for the first time ever. And in that moment, she felt something deep and overwhelming. Pride. Not the loud, boastful kind, but the quiet, unshakable kind that comes from surviving what was meant to break you. She was no longer the woman, silently suffering, waiting for someone to see her worth. Sophia now saw it for herself. She didn't seek revenge. She found recovery. She built a new life, one decision at a time, rooted in resilience. The money she once spent on Noah's car now lived in her freedom fund. Part of it paid for this trip. The rest, she planned to enroll in an online design course, a dream Noah once dismissed with a laugh. That night, wrapped in a blanket by the window, Sophia wrote herself a quiet promise. I will never again trade my self-respect for love. I will choose peace, even if it means walking alone. And I will no longer wait to be chosen, because I choose myself. She folded the letter, smiling softly, and just like that, Sophia turned the page on a brand new chapter. The biggest lesson Sophia learned wasn't just about love. It was about identity. She realized that sometimes the most dangerous relationships aren't the ones filled with shouting or violence, but the ones that quietly erode your self-worth through manipulation, guilt, and emotional neglect. Love shouldn't feel like endurance. It shouldn't drain your spirit, silence your voice, or make you doubt your worth. Real love uplifts, it respects, it doesn't ask you to shrink so someone else can shine. Sophia learned that healing doesn't always come with dramatic gestures. Sometimes it looks like changing your locks, blocking a number, taking a walk, choosing silence over chaos. But most importantly, she learned that choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. Many people, especially women, stay in toxic relationships far too long, not because they're weak, but because they believe in love, in loyalty, in potential. Sophia's story is a reminder that it's okay to leave. It's okay to walk away from people who don't value your presence or respect your boundaries. If you find yourself always giving, always sacrificing, always waiting for change. Pause and ask, what am I losing by staying? Whether it's a partner, a job, or even a friendship, if something costs you your peace, it's too expensive. Create a freedom fund. Journal your truth. Talk to someone you trust. And above all, remember, you don't need permission to start over. Your second chance doesn't begin when someone lets you go. It begins the moment you decide to let go. If you enjoy deep, emotional, and meaningful stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new update. Your support is the motivation that drives us to keep bringing you powerful stories. Once again, thank you for being here, and see you in the next story.